Welcome to the demonstration of Tzunami Deployer. During this demonstration, we will perform a migration from EMC eRoom to SharePoint 2010 using Tzunami Deployer. This presentation will go over the four main steps of the migration process. First, we will export the source content from eRoom. This can be done from within the deployer or as a standalone process. We will then load the content to a deployer project. Next, we will perform the virtual deployment along with all of its relevant configurations. And finally, we will commit our migration specifications to SharePoint 2010. We'll start by creating a new deployer project. When we click on File, New, Deployer will create a new project for us to work on. We are prompted to give our project a name. We'll call it eRoom Demo. Next, we specify the project folder using the Browse button. We'll now choose our source and target systems from the list. For this demo, we'll choose to deploy from eRoom and deploy to our target, SharePoint 2010. Our new project is now ready for migration. As you can see, a deployer project is divided into two areas. The top area is for the source content, in our case, the content that will be extracted from eRoom, and the bottom area is for the target, SharePoint 2010. In order to load the eRoom content, we must first export it. This is done by right-clicking the source panel of the deployer window and selecting Export eRoom to TDX. The eRoom Exporter wizard appears. Under the General tab, we decide which types of items we would like to export: files, mail items, notes, discussions, databases, and so on. Under the Advanced tab, we can choose to export the documents along with their security, and decide how to export versions and attachment versions. We must also decide how to export attachments themselves. By selecting to export attachments as separate items, each item will have an additional folder containing all of its attachments. Otherwise, only attachments which are of file type will be exported. Under the Comments tab, we decide how we will export version comments and choose a format for these comments. The next step will be to navigate through the eRoom containers and select the content we wish to export. We'll choose our demo facility along with the demo room within it. When exporting large amounts of content, filtering can be used to export only certain items which comply with certain conditions. For example, we can choose to only export content that was created before or after a set date. We'll now choose a destination folder for the export, where all extracted data will be saved on the file system. The exporter begins the export process. Tzunami Exporter for eRoom extracts the content according to your specifications and turns it into a file format that deployer can read, the TDX. The export folder will contain the actual files and data extracted from eRoom, along with the TDX and STDX files, which are XML files that contain all the information regarding metadata, structure, and so on. When the export is finished, we can open the exporter report to view which content was extracted from eRoom. We then progress to name our exported information, and the content is loaded into the source panel in Deployer. Once Deployer is done loading, we can explore the hierarchy of the eRoom content and see that the same exported content now resides in the deployer project, along with all of its metadata. For example, in this export we have properly extracted a document library, a calendar, a couple of folders, a poll, a discussion board, a contact list, a URL links database, and several other items. Similar to the look and feel of Windows Explorer, Deployer displays the content from the source with a tree view on the left and with a list view on the right. This allows us to easily browse through our content and understand our content structure. In the Target panel of Deployer, we'll load the data from our target, SharePoint 2010. This is done by right-clicking the Target panel and then Connect to SharePoint. We now have the connection wizard. We are required to specify the connection details. First, we'll fill in our server address. This can be done by entering the server's name or IP address. To make sure you have the correct information, please consult with your system administrator. Next, we enter our credentials. The user connecting to SharePoint must have sufficient privileges in order for Deployer to write the changes to SharePoint. Please refer to our Tzunami Deployer user guide for more information regarding permissions. After the connection to the SharePoint server was made, we choose which web applications we would like to load into our project. We are now able to choose how we would like to load our SharePoint structure. It is recommended to load the minimum amount of content required for your specific migration project. First, we decide which sites to load into the project. For this demonstration, we'll select the site collection named Demo. When the Read Subsites option is checked, Deployer will read all subsites under the parent site. We now move on to reading the content. We can choose to read none of the lists, only the libraries, or all of the lists. The same applies for reading items. We can read none of the items, the latest version only, or all versions. When no sites and no lists are selected, the loading process is expedited, and we are able to reload any content from our SharePoint target panel at any time. Under the Active Directory tab, we can select the domains we would like to read into the project. This enables Deployer to retrieve a list of all available users and groups. When we are satisfied with our structure, we click Next and Done, and Deployer begins reading the selected content into our Deployer project. Deployer is able to read all necessary content from the SharePoint server, including custom and global templates. Once Deployer is done loading, we can explore the hierarchy of the SharePoint content. Now that both our source and target are loaded into our project, we begin our deploy phase and start performing our virtual migration. To deploy content from our source, eRoom, to our target, SharePoint 2010, we can use several methods. The first and easiest of which is to drag and drop our selected content to the desired destination in the target. We'll select our demo facility and drag it over to our demo site collection. The Deploy wizard appears to guide us through the process of deploying the selected items to SharePoint 2010. In the first step, we choose if we would like to deploy the files along with their security. Choosing to deploy the items without their security settings will make the deployment process faster. We deploy the files without their security for the purpose of this demonstration. We start by specifying the global settings. Here we can decide how Deployer will name files with duplicate file names. We can also choose the specific number of versions to be deployed. Under the List tab, we are able to control some of the list settings in SharePoint, such as supporting major and minor versions, views, and attachments. In the Define Deployment Structure panel, we have the ability to control the hierarchy of our deployment, including site and list templates, folders, and so on. The deployer automatically suggests how to deploy the items from eRoom to the corresponding SharePoint 2010 items. We first decide how to migrate our demo room. We can choose a site template from the drop-down menu, which has all of the default SharePoint site templates, as well as the option to use custom templates. For example, we choose the pre-created custom template for our site and move on to determine the structure below it. Our company documents folder will be migrated as a new document library. Our holiday calendar will be migrated as an existing calendar. Our poll will be migrated as a new survey. The support discussion board will be migrated as a new discussion board. the Tzunami contact list will be migrated as a new contacts list. And finally, the URL links will be migrated as an existing links list. Deployer also gives us the option to migrate our content with or without the hierarchy structure. If we choose flat deploy, the items are all migrated on the same level and the hierarchy is not deployed. Now we will perform the property mapping step. On the left, Deployer displays a list of properties that exist in the documents from the source eRoom, and on the right, we can view a list of properties that are available for us from the target, SharePoint 2010. Deployer automatically suggests some of the basic mappings. For example, the created and modified properties are already mapped. Deployer enables us to map any remaining properties according to our own specifications. We select the property from the source list and the matching property from the target list and click Map. The link above can be used in case the target has fewer properties than the source. This will tell Deployer to add any of the missing properties we select. We'll choose to maintain the eRoom item type and ID from the missing properties list. Now that we have finished mapping our properties, we need to map the associated values of these properties. Again, Deployer automatically maps similar values. For example, Jody, Marcy, and Richard have already been mapped. As we did for the property mapping, we can select our own value mappings using the Map button. We are now ready to deploy. During this phase, Deployer applies all of the deployment settings and mappings that we've selected. When the deployment is finished, we can open the deploy reports. These reports allow us to view any errors and warnings that may have occurred during the virtual deployment. This enables us to make any modifications prior to the commit phase, such as changing an exceedingly long URL path or enabling a blocked extension. Since we don't have any warnings, we'll click Next and Done. We are now able to take a look at the results of the deployment. Within Deployer, we can view the properties in the target panel and confirm that the metadata associated with the items which we plan to migrate to SharePoint are all preserved according to our specifications. Now, assuming that we're satisfied with the migration, we'll commit the changes to SharePoint 2010. By committing our project, we tell Deployer to perform all the changes that we made virtually and write these changes to SharePoint 2010. During the commit, the actual content migration physically copies the source items to the target library, list, or folder on the SharePoint site, while updating their metadata properties according to the Tzunami Deployer project definitions. Under the View tab, we can view the commit report to see the changes that we've committed to SharePoint and view any warnings or errors that may have occurred when writing the selected content to our target. We'll right-click the new site and choose Open in order to open it in SharePoint 2010 via Internet Explorer. We can take a look at all the site content and see that the migration was successful. This concludes our Tzunami Deployer demonstration for the migration of content from eRoom to SharePoint 2010. We thank you for your time and welcome you to visit our website in order to download an evaluation version of Tzunami Deployer for eRoom and learn more about the Tzunami family of products.